if you didn't, watch it at some point. Hopefully through what I'm sharing, it kind of challenges you to watch it. As much as it's going to be uncomfortable, it's going to challenge me in a lot of ways, um, but I think it is important. Uh, so I mentioned it briefly. I'm just going to kind of jump into my notes. I'm going to try to stick to my notes as much as possible. Uh, we talked about dating and how it's on the social media platforms, things like Tinder, and there's way more than Tinder, a lot more than I thought there was, and it's not like, eHarmony, those commercials where, you know, that's like, it's close to dating, I guess, as you could put it, but Tinder, it's essentially just an app to hook up with other people, is what it is, and it's extremely degrading. Um, but there's a lot more than that too. Through doing research, there's a lot of just filth, I guess is the best way to put it. Uh, Things that I honestly did not know there was. There's applications created specifically to aid people in cheating on their spouse. And you heard that correctly. Like, it's created specifically for it. Find other people who are okay with cheating on their spouse. And if that's not like a wake-up call for society right now, that's just crazy to me. Um, and on top of that, I was talking with someone yesterday, and again, it's my intention to put together something, because looking at Focus on the Family, they have something posted in regards to social media, guidelines, parameters, but that was posted in 2007. And honestly, a lot of this social media stuff didn't really come into play until like 2010 and 2011, like I mentioned previously, is when a lot of these platforms took off and became a problem. So if there isn't stuff out there, I can't make promises, but I'm going to do my best to try to put something together if I can't find it, because I do think it's important. And my kids aren't old enough yet, but when my kids do get old enough, this is something I am nervous about, because there's a lot of just bad stuff out there. So with that, from my brief researching and looking through it, Twitter is a lot different than I thought. I don't use Twitter a whole lot, but Twitter is a platform that does not censor anything, whether it's suggestive, graphic, whatever it is. They do not put parameters on that, which is insane. You know what I mean? A platform that, and if your kids have it, if grandchildren, I would just take that into consideration, because, I was looking through, I was impressed with Instagram. Instagram has a native, it's like an application within the application, to be able to set a timer for yourself on how long you spend on it. So, you can set it I think it's in 5-minute increments. So that's cool. I didn't look as much into Facebook, because for me personally, Instagram is the one that I use, like I said, for sports and stuff like that. But Twitter right now is the one that I think is the biggest issue, because at least Facebook and Instagram attempt to, but along those lines, they're very blurred on what is suggestive and what's graphic and what's not okay, which is what we run into a lot as Christians, is that the standards that we hold ourselves to, that God expects us to hold ourselves to, are very different than what the world is. So that's just something I wanted to kind of lead off with, that because I don't want to save that until later on, because there's some of us who might be struggling with that right now, and so I wanted to kind of lead off with that. So again, be vigilant. Accountability partners, pray. There is a lot of just evil on these platforms, and I know this is sounding doom and gloom, but this is just, it's scary. It really is. And when I was younger and when I had a phone, if you would have tried to tell me this stuff, I probably would have rejected you and been like, no, it's okay. Like, I'm not that nervous about it. But now that I'm older and I'm seeing a lot of this stuff and what's happened because of these applications, there's a lot of bad that can be done with it. All right, I'm going to try to get back to my notes here. So, have you guys ever heard of the Oculus, those little headset, the virtual reality things? They're like all the rage right now. I guess it probably started a couple years ago when they first came out, but it's a lot of, like, they're trying to make, like, video games, and, like, they have, like, virtual reality lives in these, and all that kind of stuff. It's, like, all the rage right now. It's awesome. It is really cool. I don't personally have one, but one of my friends had one, and it's really cool to play a game where, like, you look around and, like, it's around you, or you like, you can go to the Grand Canyon, and as you're looking around, like, it's actually doing that, and it's really, really awesome. But in a world trying to, find these virtual realities and outside of things, you know, it makes me wonder, like, are we trying to escape a lot of the stuff that's going on in our own lives, Again, video games, the games in that. I'm not saying that they're horrible, because they can be, basketball for me is a stress reliever. Video games is a stress reliever. We all have certain hobbies and things that we like doing. And I'm not saying that they're bad. But I do think we need to take the time to be honest with ourselves as far as the things that we're struggling with in life and things that we might be running away from. So let us not forget that although our faith can grow through social media as a tool, as well as technology, nothing can replace the community and gathering of fellow believers in person. That it cannot be replaced by anything virtual. And so this is something, honestly, when we started with the live stream, how long ago that was? We started with that a couple months before COVID started, right? Yeah. Yeah. And started off with my phone, actually. I just propped it up against, I think it was a tissue box back there. And it's cool to see what's happened with it, and that it's being used, that we're recording stuff like that. But to be honest, I felt a little convicted too, of how easy we're making it to move to a virtual faith, And I mean, it's not enough for me to say, no, we're getting rid of this. I mean, we have a brand new system. It might be running right now. Me and Elliot have been working on that. And that's exciting, but at the same time, I do think it is kind of something we need to pray about as a church, that this is an awesome thing we're doing. We're making it, if you're sick, my biggest thing through all this is we've been trying to make it so that you have no reason to not, get something out of church on a Sunday morning. But it does, I have felt convicted recently, of how easy it is to, shelter ourselves and just, I can do this, I can stay at home, I can sip my coffee, which is awesome. I've been able to do that a couple times, when we've been, self-quarantining just for safety reasons. But there is something about being here in person, and I want to challenge everyone that, if you're sick, it's not a good idea to come to church. But if you're not, I would highly encourage you to come and be in person, because I think that's very important, and the Bible talks about that. So social media at its best is a place to communicate with our family and friends who may not live nearby, and as a way to stay connected with those who may not be on the same path as you. So, old college friends, high school friends, things of that nature. And that's at its best, and again, posting funny things, that's neither here nor there. But again, there's the things that come along with that. I'm not going to try to pronounce this girl's name that was on the Social Dilemma, because I'll just butcher it. She was the former VP of Facebook, talking about growth. She said, "We curate our lives around this perceived sense of perfection because we get rewarded in these short-term signals through hearts, likes, thumbs up, people tagging us in photos, things of that nature. The social media developers conflate popularity with value and with truth, and instead what it really is a fake and brittle popularity that is short-term and leaves you even more vacant and empty than before you did it." And then think about that compacted by 2 billion people that are in the world today. And I'm just going to keep going, because what she's talking about there is the way that these platforms were developed and how they're trying to draw you in. And we're just going to keep moving through this, because we're just going to go deeper and deeper on how they're doing that. And as a caveat to that, I don't want to send the wrong signal that those of us who are being supportive on there, I'm not saying don't like people's profile because they might be struggling with this. It's up to the person posting, again, and it's the same thing when you get the platforms. They actually talk about that. Community standards on Facebook, I think, is a big one that they talk about, is that it is up to you to post. It's not, it's you posting. You're held accountable for what you're sharing. But where the issue lies is, the purpose and the meaning of our posts. Are we posting to find meaning, to find worth, and to find acceptance on our friends lists? And if so, we're buying into a shallow, temporary happiness, a Band-Aid, if you will. Similar to alcohol, drugs, and sex, and all those are temporary Band-Aids. Our purpose and meaning is found elsewhere. It requires no Wi-Fi, no charging, no login info, and this creator or develop, I guess you could say for the sake of this analogy, can be trusted, unlike some of these platforms. So, social media is free. When you download Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, all these, you don't pay a single cent. It's all free. So something I wondered as I was younger, and I don't know why I never researched it earlier, is how do these people make money? You know what I mean? Like, these are some like mega million. I don't even know how much they're worth. Dylan would be the guy to talk about. He has access to that information probably. In the documentary, The Social Dilemma, they talk about this and how do they, the developers, make money using these platforms. And the answer is quite simple. They sell you as a person. And it isn't just social media either. Games are doing it too. I have Sudoku, euchre, card games, and stuff like that. And in between each game, there's an ad. And so we're just gonna continue to get onto that. And it kind of makes me frustrated too, because I'm playing a game, I'm not wanting to look at ads. And honestly, it's gotten to the point now where I'll download a game, and if I see an ad, it gets deleted. Because I found I don't want to spend, again, they're keeping me on my phone that much longer, because if I say, oh, I'll play 3 games here, that's added on. I mean, we're talking like 20 or 30 seconds, but it's not that important to me to keep that. And a lot of times, in order to get rid of these ads, if you get frustrated and you get angry like I often do, you have to pay. $1, $2, $3. But if you think about that, you add that to how many billions of people have downloaded that game or application. But there is no option to pay on Instagram or Facebook to get rid of those ads. That's just how that works. So they sell your eyes. They sell your mind. They sell your ears. They sell you as a result of your human desire, your lust, your cravings, essentially your humanness. As humans, we're consumers, and that can be kind of a scary word, but at the same time, in all reality, we are. I mean, we all go to the grocery store, depending on what store you go to, whatever, we're consumers. And essentially, these companies who own these platforms sell your ability to consume these ads that are placed in front of you, and as a result, are cashing huge paychecks to these marketing places who are looking to, promote their services, their products, their ideals, things of that nature. So think about that for a second. Guys, they're selling your weakness. I was just talking with someone yesterday. I think Facebook knows if you're a guy or a girl. I don't know, girls, when you're scrolling, do you see any ads for like lingerie or anything like that? Probably not, right? But us as guys, we're going to start cringing here, but if we're being real, it does happen. In order to not see that, you have to click the 3 buttons, I don't know what those are called, but say, I don't want to see stuff like this. And I touched it again, that's briefly last week. It does. You're just not looking hard enough. So when you're watching an ad or even a post, I guess I shouldn't say for certain. Facebook, I'm fairly certain has had it, because I think I've done it on that. Instagram especially, though, is there's a button, there's 3 dots in the top right corner. You'll click that, and then you can say, I don't want to see, ads or posts like this. Which, again, is a good thing. I'm happy that they have that there, but it doesn't work the way that it should. Like, it'd be cool if when you're setting up these social media accounts, Mark, I am a Christian. Oh, okay, well, we're not going to give me ads that are about cheeseburgers. Yes, Dylan. Mhm. 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 Did it work? Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. So for those of us who didn't hear that on the mic, Dylan was saying that there's something on Facebook that you can search to kind of filter out certain ads. And I know Instagram, I was messing around with Instagram yesterday and did see I can choose to not see parenting ads. I can choose to not see certain things, but the things that I wanted to filter out were not an option. You know, there should be a search thing that I can search, just like, you know, not there's not an option to search, and that there should be, honestly. You know what I mean? I'm accepting the fact that if I'm on Instagram, I will be sold to. And if it's basketball shoes, you know, whatever, that's fine. But there is certain stuff on there that I just don't need to see. And the fact that they don't have that option is something that is kind of concerning. Um, mhm, mhm, mhm. It's all tailor fit. It's terrifying how well they know you. Uh, like we were joking at men's breakfast yesterday. We were like sitting down eating food, me, Dylan, Derek, and Justin, and we were just like joking about like a product or something like that. And so we like got down close to our phone. And we're like, I wonder, if this is sold near me or something like that. Just messing around, but that it is a reality. You know, what I mean, it's paying attention to all that stuff. You have your own profile, and I don't know where these things are kept, but like you are being sold to these different marketing companies, and your information is being shared about your purchasing history, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Like right now, my social media, just everything, all my ads and everything are centered around plane flights. Me and Mallory were talking about going to Florida. We started searching, that was Friday morning, and like every ad is, hotels, and like just everything centered around traveling. Um, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Let's see here. So, yeah, I, I, yeah, I wouldn't go as far to say that they're targeting specifically Christian men. Yeah, yeah. No, I definitely think they're targeting men. I mean, again, that's like the biggest weakness, for any like. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. In a way, I mean, you have a bullseye marked on your chest just because you're a male, and they know probably what is going to cause you to, you know, yeah. And it's not to say, I mean,
I don't think they target women as much, but again, at the same time, I don't have, yeah, but they might not notice it as much because it's not on their radar. You know what I mean? Like for me, I can scroll past, like, so Mallory likes essential oils. If I see an essential oil ad, I'm not gonna like be like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe it. Like they know that that's my weed. I'm just gonna scroll past it because I don't care. But in retrospect, though, so I've been talking a lot to Mallory on what she's been seeing on her social media, and we are seeing differences though in her as a girl. But I mean, at the same time, is like there's there's differences. I'm more into like basketball, and so my Instagram, they kind of push those boundaries a little bit. That this is a suggested person. She plays basketball, but she's also like a bikini model. Okay, well, I'm gonna stop, following. It was NBA memes or something like that, so I no longer follow them. It's these different things that they have suggested things because it's in a loop. So if you're in this loop, they're going to suggest this loop, and it gets everywhere. Uh,
Watching the documentary, which I would agree with you too, it's worth watching, and the programmers and developers behind that know well enough what makes men and women tick
mhm,
psychologically. And so, and they also know the responses, how we're wired to respond to things. So these things are just
mhm,
absolutely form fitted for a female psyche and a male psyche.
mhm. Yeah.
Does that take?
There's very smart people behind all of this. We'll just say that they know what they're doing, and yeah. Cool.
Are you going to talk at all about the artificial intelligence and all this?
Oh yeah, that's down below. uh, So like I said, I can't speak for women here, but sometimes as a man, it feels like a constant uphill battle to keep my eyes, my ears, and my mind pure. In this age of media and technology, it is something it's seriously everywhere. And as men in this day and age, we should be a little fed up with this. You know what I mean? If we're not, then are we being complicit to it? That we're just kind of like, well, at least I'm not searching for it, but it shows up every once in a while. Like we should be kind of angry, because as if it wasn't hard enough without being targeted, we have our own temptation. Again, you could move out, like I said, I want to move out into a cabin in the middle of nowhere, but temptation will still be there. It's not this tablet, this phone is not the problem. It's my fallenness, and so.
Okay, so like, Google is free,
Mhm.
Yahoo Mail is free. Do they do the same thing? Because I've got Yahoo Mail is free, and that has spots where
Yeah, ads along the side, like News Junkie. Sometimes it's hard to read what you actually want to because half the screen is taken up by ads. So yeah, they're all doing it, but like on News Junkie, I haven't seen inappropriate stuff, and so I'd like to believe that they kind of monitor, what gets ad space on there.
so we're probably safe to say that any internet service, even if it's not on our phone, or even
Mhm.
if it's on our computer at home, so like just because you got a cell phone, just because you don't have a smartphone
Mhm.
doesn't mean you're immune. If you're using
Oh
a
yeah.
computer, you're going to be, because anything that's free is not free.
Mhm.
They're getting paid somehow.
Yeah.
They're paying our attention and our ability to buy.
Mhm.
Is that
And if you can't find a way on how they're making money, I'd be a little nervous because somehow, some way, they're making money. They aren't working. These aren't charity companies, They're making money somehow.
I go a step further besides social media, even my email, first thing I have to do, delete
Mhm.
so many things.
Mhm.
Some of them are ads, some of them are, I don't even want to know what
Mhm.
they are.
Yeah.
But and I put block on it,
Yeah.
for a long time, but
Yeah.
I probably run out of room to block.
Yeah. And yeah, and like unsubscribing to things like purchasing the stuff for the new social media, or not social media, live streaming system. Just by purchasing stuff, it automatically signs you up for their mailing list on all the new products they're offering, all this stuff. And so, my personal email, I've got like 10 places I got to go through and unsubscribe. And again, there's not inappropriate stuff on there, but if I wanted that, I would have signed up for it. You know. It does. Yeah, it's like 24, 48 hours that they put on there, and they want to know why. Oh, why don't you want to receive these emails? Well, because I don't want them. So, in the social dilemma, Tristan Harris, I think he's the one that kind of put it together, right? He's the main guy. I think he had red hair. He was the one that was up talking most of the time. I believe so. Yeah. Yeah. But he kind of tackles. So how are we being targeted, both men and women? He explains that the way that they do this is by using media algorithms. The way that those work is that they take note of what you click on, how long you stay on a video, a picture, how long you look at a post, how long you watch an ad. They're taking your age, your race, your gender, your geographical location, and they store that in a box. And then they turn around and start hurling more of that thing that you happen to, again, if like essential oils, if I scroll right past that, like they're taking note of that. Okay, he doesn't like that, or it's not worth the time. And again, if all you do is watch The Social Dilemma and watch little clips of those three guys where they're like talking, the kid is standing there, he's kind of like suspended in the air, he's like a robot, and it's interesting to notice as that progressed, he's getting more detailed in the video. That like dummy or electronic version of him, he's getting more detailed, his eyes start showing up, which again, the longer you're on this, the more information they're getting on you. They're creating another version of you per se, and they're creating another you to be able to use you to sell more ad space.
It's not even something like you said, that idea is you don't even have to click, like on Facebook you got, now the big thing is all those videos that just are there. They can tell if you slow your scroll.
Mm-hmm. It's just a simple measure. I mean, if you think about it like your phone, it's taking a measurement and the time it takes you to get from where one post starts and where the other one starts, and all this stuff is done in a split second, and yeah. So these corporations and companies, as a source of income, have moved to mining our attention. How can we get you to stare at this ad or this post or this video in order to sell your attention at top dollar? In the documentary, again, they were doing it kind of like an auction. Like, oh, okay, sold. We just sold for $3.04 his attention, pretty much. And I really do believe that that's the way it is, because I don't think that no, there isn't. I know there isn't. There's not these predetermined, like on this block, you're going to scroll past 3 pictures on Instagram, and then there is going to be a Jimmy John's ad. It's not that. It's tailor fit for each person. And so they're kind of like hurling different stuff at you, like, oh, we didn't get him here, so we're going to circle around here 7 scrolls, and we're going to get him there, And not only do they track your online activity in order to make predictions of what you'll do next, they track where you are, like physically where you are. I was talking with a buddy of mine, Ryan, and he was talking about how he was able to go on to Google Maps and see where he's been for the past 10 years, like the different places he's gone. And like, again, when that was created, and these people, when they created these things, they weren't meant to be bad. But the 3 credit bureaus, there was one of them that got hacked or something like that a couple years back. I know because I was one of them that my information got out. But again, we're fooling ourselves if that doesn't happen on a regular basis. So if Google Maps gets hacked, or Snapchat, which also has this feature of telling where you are, these places get hacked, that information is getting into the hands of people who can do some really bad stuff. I'm not as nervous for myself, but if I'm being honest, I am nervous for my wife and my daughter. They go shopping sometime. You're reading stuff on Facebook about all these like horror stories of them being followed out to the car and stuff. This is serious stuff. It is. We need to be careful about what, scrolling through the terms and conditions. I'm not saying to read them, but do research on these things for yourself. Don't just trust, Facebook saying, oh, we've got your back, we have safety parameters in place, nothing will happen. This stuff happens in real time. Oh, yeah. Yeah, mom sent me something, and again, it was in a news article, who knows, all that stuff, but I have seen a lot of that kind of stuff as far as Snapchat, is that, these young girls will have their location turned around so their friends know, oh, I'm posting a picture here at this place, and, you got to be honest with yourself that if someone happens to get on there who shouldn't be, he's taking note of, oh, they happen to be here at this time, at this place, they're taking note of that kind of stuff. I do think it plays a part. I'm not going to say that, like, Snapchat is the reason for all of it. But I think, again, these are all tools. They can all be used for good and for evil. It's just something it's crazy going off that is on Fridays, me and Mallory ride into work together, and she'll like pull up her phone sometimes, put music on, and it'll say, on your way to work, it'll take exactly this time. It knows the route we take, all that stuff. It's like, I'm not making this stuff up. It's terrifying. And honestly, like, and Dad mentioned it too, that you're not immune just because you don't have a phone or social media platforms. If you have a computer, like this stuff, as much as we want to say we live a private life, it's not so private if you have technology in your house. Not trying to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but it's just the reality of it. So these corporations are preying on what you are needing in your weakness in the moment. And a little example on that. So something that me and Mallory have been praying a lot about recently, it's both of our desire for her to be able to stay at home and to work in some way, shape, or form, to not have to leave the house. The kids. I don't know what that was. Yeah, okay. And through that, we've been doing, different searches to, jobs to stay at home. And without even putting stay-at-home mom, that's what shows up. All of these get-rich-quick schemes, pyramid schemes, all these things, like, all you have to do is spend 2 hours filling out these surveys. What they don't tell you is that these pay like 2 cents a survey. And so you cannot be attentive to your kid doing that kind of stuff. And it's just crazy because that's something that, like, we're like praying for, we want so badly, and not for negative reasons. I mean, she's not wanting to be lazy and stay at home. She's trying to do what she feels called to do, which is be a stay-at-home mom and care for the needs of our children. And it's just frustrating because, they prey on her. And it's funny, she would come to me with something and be like, oh, hey, there's this or whatever, and I'm always super skeptical. And if you know anything about me, I am very, very skeptical on this kind of stuff. Probably too much, and Mallory gets after me sometimes for it because I tend to not trust something or even look into it because I'm just like, there's no way that that's true. That's got to be false. And even going as far as, searching for loan repayments, she was searching something and she got a phone call. They were asking for information on, what, Social Security and stuff like that. Luckily, it didn't get to the point where it was bad, but they knew some information, and, it's just, there's a lot of ways that people can get your information. And because we were doing searches to try to make life work so that possibly she could stay home, all these, ad places are trying to prey on that. I would love to. Let's all collectively find a way to do that. I seriously get a call at least twice a day from 2 separate numbers on that, and I'll block it, and guess what? They're calling on a different number the next day. It's just ridiculous. And this stuff should make us kind of angry again, just like how we're being targeted as men, just as humans. There's someone sitting behind a computer whose job it is to create a way to attack us in our vulnerable areas. Like that's frustrating. It's like, like finding, something that makes someone angry. Can you imagine if someone found out a way that makes you really angry, and they sit there and they just keep doing that same thing over and over again? That would make you super angry. In the same way, this stuff should kind of like irk at us a little bit, you know? From the documentary, Sean Parker, he's a Facebook former president. He speaks about the development process of social media platforms. And he says that it's the exact thing that a hacker like myself, so previous hacker who got into this, that should be a little alarming. Yeah. That it's the exact thing that he wants. Because they're creating it to exploit a vulnerability in human psychology, and you touched on that briefly. I think that we as inventors, creators, and everyone involved in the process, they understood this conceptually, and they did it anyways. So they knew what they were doing, they knew what it meant, and they're all kind of like looking around like, are we doing this thing? This is kind of like, okay, all right, we're doing this thing, and they just kind of went along with it. And so I'd like to believe that a lot of this stuff they knew, like, you know, the like button, Facebook, you know, what it was created for. I believe the intention was mostly good at the start, but then these algorithms as far as ads and that kind of stuff, that's where it kind of took a turn that I think that they kind of knew what they were getting themselves into. Which again, a challenge on that is if you feel convicted on something, as hard as it, even at work, if you're feeling convicted on something, don't ignore that. Mm-hmm.
That one's not just in the marketing part, but what it does to a person's psyche, for
Mm-hmm.
self-value and everything, and it just is messy.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't know that it would do that.
Mm-hmm.
He said the sad part is now that we know it does that, nobody's done anything to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
Let it go.
Yeah, and you could, when he was saying that, like, he almost had tears in his eyes, like, absolutely disgusted with himself and the people that were involved in that because of what it had turned to. The other interesting thing about this, too, is that the people who created this, in the documentary, the guy who was part of the process of creating Pinterest, he said that when he was in the process of, you know, developing that with the team, he would come home. He had 2 young kids and a wife at home, and he would come home. Kids are playing on the ground, and he's scrolling through his own application that he created to kind of keep you getting further and further into it. And, you know, he kind of like laughed at himself, like, what am I doing here, you know? And it just goes to show again that like he knew what that application was. He knows the stuff that goes on in the background, and he still fell subject to it. So it just goes to show that I don't care who you are and how much willpower you think you have, you're fooling yourself, and you know, it does not matter. You have weaknesses, and they're exploiting them, is what it comes down to. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, and even what it's doing right now, like those numbers, which I shared briefly on it last week, like the young teens, again, the Gen Z generation, like we're starting to see, like what you were just talking about, what those effects of what that is, because again, even though we don't always act like it as adults, we have the ability, more of an ability, to fight that stuff off. You know, our kids, these young teens, they just simply don't. They haven't developed yet. And they want to say that we're developed at 18. I'd like to argue not until 23, 22, because, yeah, that's for a different day. So 1 Corinthians 10:13 says, "No temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. God is faithful, and he will not let you be tempted beyond your ability. But with the temptation, he will also provide the way of escape, that you may be able to endure it." I love that verse so much, that I'm not tempted past my ability. God, as humans, we have the ability to make a decision. If we want to follow God, if we don't. And in the same way, God's not going to give me more than I can handle, even though it might feel like it in the moment. Stuff that I've been through, I wanted to just, say, whatever. This is too much for me. I'm just going to lay in my bed all day and just give up. You know what I mean? This is just too much to handle. I'm just going to just be depressed. But again, God does not give us more than we can handle. No temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. Which, there's nothing that we're going through that other people, and that's, again, is don't feel alone. Accountability partners. I'll say I have a friend, and I have Mallory as well. And to be honest, new in our marriage and that kind of stuff, is I asked her, I want you to check in on me. I want you to ask me how I'm doing with this, with that. You know what I mean? We need to have accountability because as humans, we create excuses for ourselves. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 And the sad part is that it's become an expectation for kids to have a phone. I work with some families. Because I work mainly with the kids, but I work as a team with the parents and the providers to try to, get these kids back on track. And I'll tell, I have this one kid in particular. I tell him all the time, I'm like, you would not like me as a parent. If I were your parent, you would not like me. You would not have a phone. I got the one day, he's not doing his schoolwork, he's, not showing up, not logging in, and he's playing Xbox. What? Yeah. No, I don't care if it's a waste of money. I would take it out in the front yard and smash it. But there is an expectation for kids to have this stuff, and like Mom just said, that if we're going to purchase this device, I guess I'll backtrack a little bit. What's our call as parents? As Christians, I guess we'll say that. What's our job as Christian parents? What was that? Yep. So, if we're buying this device, yes, we're saying our prayers before dinner. Yes, we're doing that stuff. But I'd like to think that, that prayer is good and everything like that, but if we're not monitoring that device, that can lead to a lot worse than not saying your prayer before a meal. There is just so much filth, so much, you could lose your kid if you don't monitor that. And I don't want to get too crazy, but that's the reality, is that we need to be very serious on this stuff as parents and what we allow our kids to do. And my proposition on this, again, and you need to do what you need to in your own house, but if social media is still around when, Arabelle and Callahan get to be that age, I'm going to be just as involved in whatever they're doing as they are. Because you can check their phone, like you were just saying, but there's ways to hide everything. If you're knowingly walking in sin, what you're doing is wrong, you can hide it. There's an infinite ways you can do that. And so, and going a step further than that too is, sitting down and talking about those dangers. It's that, like me and Mallory are talking about, at what age do we start talking about this stuff and warning on this stuff? Because I think it's very important to be very honest, with kids. our kids, kids in the church, grandchildren, whoever it might be, of just the dangers on that and, what we can do to combat that stuff and what it can lead to, and just be very open and honest about that stuff. Because as a kid, I know growing up, mom and dad, they told me about a lot of that stuff. It's not that I always believed it when I was that young, but as I started seeing that stuff, I'm like going back to those conversations I had, the stuff I was learning in youth group, the stuff that, different people that I respect have, warned me on stuff like that. So I guess don't just leave that in the dark. Take that role pretty seriously.
Yeah, 'cause there's two extremes to that. One is giving advice with nothing, which is
Mhm.
want to boot you out with it. The other one is you can't ever have it.
Mhm.
Forbid it. You say, well, isn't that a solution? You got to realize that your kid someday is not going to be under your roof. They're going to make
Mhm.
their own choices, and it's better
Mhm.
to actually, when they're ready, to allow them to have some of the things that are
Mhm.
going to act, where you can still have input and guide and coach through
And
that.
learning lessons.
There's a lot of people that grew up in a house that forbade everything that was
Mhm.
could be potentially bad, wasn't, but could be used bad.
And they
And
got
when
out on
they
their
leave
own.
home,
Yep.
they have no way to know
Mhm.
how to make appropriate decisions. And that's one of our jobs too,
Mhm.
with our kids, is to teach and train how to make appropriate
Mhm.
decisions and appropriate parameters.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you were just saying, it is important to allow some freedom because you don't want to, stifle them. But just because, their grades are good and, they're doing all that stuff, they're getting chores done, that doesn't mean, like we can be so addicted to our stuff that we'll take care of all the stuff. We'll even go over and beyond to make sure that we have access to, this thing here. So we're at the end here. Yeah. We're not too bad. I feel a little more organized this morning, but yeah, there's a lot, and I'm not getting as far as I wanted to. But I last night as I was reading over stuff, so I had all this stuff prepared before, but as I'm reading through it, I'm thinking of more stuff that should be in here. So I'm feeling more and more convicted that I probably do need to put something together, whether it's typed up, just as a resource to be put out there. I'm not promising it's going to be too great because I don't claim to be, an expert in this stuff as far as like parenting and that kind of stuff. But I'm going to do my best because I feel convicted on this stuff, and I want to try to make sure that we're all making our best informed decisions in parenting and in our own lives, to be honest. I mean, a lot of that stuff was about kids, but we're adults, and how many adults do you see that act like children? You know what I mean? So in a lot of the same ways, I mean, these temptations, it doesn't matter if you're a 10-year-old boy or you're an 80-year-old man. You're still being tempted. It does not matter because we are human. So we'll wrap up in prayer here. God, thank you for this morning. I thank you for this awesome technology. Again, I just want to say this is awesome, and it can be used for awesome stuff to glorify your kingdom. I want us to feel challenged and convicted to take this back over from where it's heading and where it has been, to put a stake in the ground, just, in our lives, and to nicely challenge the people around us as well to try to take back these platforms. I just pray that you will be with us the rest of this week, and in your name, amen.